So in this video, I just want to point out some of the main differences between characteristics of informal writing, which might still be good writing, and formal academic writing, which we're learning how to make good. So in this first example, I've pulled a piece off the Desiring God blog, and just by looking at the words on the page, I can immediately tell that this is not formal academic writing. It's not even formal theological writing, in the sense that when I'm looking at these lines, some of the paragraphs are just one line, just a few words. Most of the paragraphs are only 2 or 3 sentences. So when you're doing formal academic writing, and working on creating a sustained and structured argument, you'll always need fully formed paragraphs to do that. In this piece, it just doesn't have those. And that's okay, because it was on a blog. So the next thing that I notice when I zoom in a little bit more closely is that there's a lot of use of that implied we. Now, the Desiring God blog does have a pretty particular audience, and so it might be more fair to assume that the we are just those people who are reading the Desiring God blog. And that's perfectly fine for an online sort of social media presence, but it's a lot less fine for formal academic research writing or especially exegetical work. And then the third thing that we see is a lot of Christianese in this piece. It's almost to the point that a lot of these words are becoming like catchphrases, which is again perfectly fine for an online popular theological blog or a sermon or a Bible study or something like that. But the kind of language that's in this piece, because it makes its way into our writing from a non-academic context, we want to kind of revise it and look at what's actually going on theologically when we call ourselves human doings instead of human beings. We want to get into the meat of that. So that's what makes this piece not formal academic writing. Now the next piece, the next example, comes from a magazine with an audience of academic faculty members. So when I look at this piece, I first notice that there are fully formed paragraphs here, and that there's even a lot more technical jargon. But just those characteristics on their own don't make this a formal academic piece, not even the fact that it's addressed to an academic context. So the two characteristics that make this informal writing or non-scholarly writing are that it uses a lot of anecdotal evidence and it makes a lot of generalizations. So most of the point of this article is to offer some advice, but all of that advice is based on the author's own experience. There aren't outside sources quoted here to support, which again is perfectly fine for the context that this piece came from. But if you were trying to do the same thing in an exegetical paper or a research paper, or even just a theological reflection paper, you'd have a hard time. So hold on to these two examples as maybe some quality writing that just come from contexts that aren't formal academia.